It's Laura from Laura Cully Hypnotherapy, and I work with a lot of professionals and business owners, helping them to overcome anxiety, imposter syndrome, and just building their confidence so that they can move forward with their career, with their business. And one of the things that I've really noticed coming up a lot with people who I'm helping with anxiety is this perfectionism, this label that, they are a perfectionist, everything has to be right. And so I've been really thinking about that a lot lately. And I am feeling like this perfectionism seems to be more of a problem than ever, and especially with younger people. So I work with a lot of young women who, starting out in their careers, and perfectionism is a real problem, not necessarily just in work, but, in the way they look. And I think a lot of it does come down to social media, because they are comparing themselves all the time to what their friends are doing, the way they look, what they're doing. And of course, it's very, very easy on social media to portray this wonderful, successful life, beautiful looks. There's always camera tricks and everything else. And I think, well, not so much us older people, but younger people, I think, are comparing themselves all the time and coming up against something that is totally unobtainable. It's not even real, and it seems to be becoming a real problem. So and I think the other thing is we're always being watched. It's a lot of things now, especially again with young people, that everything is filmed or photographed and put out for everybody to see, and so they're feeling like they have to get everything right. Now, perfectionism, I think, as I say, it can come from this kind of social media and TV as well. You think, we watch the things we watch on TV that years and years ago, I suppose you would have just compared yourself to your friends and neighbours, your colleagues, but you wouldn't have been watching the rest of the world, and you wouldn't have felt that they were watching you. But it can come from a results-driven type of household. So if when you were growing up, there was a lot of emphasis put on your grades, you had to get A's, otherwise you were failing, everything had to be perfect. And perhaps you grew up with this kind of identity as being a bit of a perfectionist, always getting everything right. And that becomes quite a burden. And then when you do make mistakes, they tend to be picked up a bit more, I think. It may be that you were just laughed at. It might not be that you were punished for getting things wrong, but even teased or laughed at for getting things wrong. And that can have quite an impact. So this perfectionism can become quite a compulsive behaviour. And if you're beginning to find that, it's just something to look out for. So I'm talking about things like when you send an email, having to check it over and over again, and you've got to check it 5 or 6 times before you send it out, just in case there is a spelling mistake, or you've got the grammar wrong, or if you've typed something up for somebody, you're going to give something to your boss, and you find yourself checking it over and over again, making sure it's perfect. So it can lead into this compulsive behaviour, which is something to look out for. Obviously, there is a difference between getting things right. I'm not saying just, send it out with a load of spelling mistakes, and don't care about it. But there is a real difference, isn't there, between wanting to get something right, doing it correctly, and having to get everything absolutely perfectly and checking and rechecking to make sure that it's perfect. So, perfectionism. Now, a lot of people do label themselves, don't they? I am a perfectionist, and they take on that identity. And as I said, it can become quite a burden to have to live up to that all the time. It can be a particular thing or part of your life that you find that you're having to get perfect, and you're really worried about making mistakes all the time. So it could be your job. It could just be that it happens at work. And so I work with a lot of people who find that. So it could be as a parent, it could be another part of your life. It could be the way you look, that you can't go out the front door without looking absolutely perfect. Or it could be a general thing. So it could be a particular part of your life, or it could be just generally you feel that you have to be perfect at everything. And feeling that if you're not perfect, then you're a failure. So it's very much that kind of black and white thinking. Either everything's got to be absolutely perfect and brilliant, or you failed and it's not good enough. And there's no grey area in between, no room to make mistakes. And of course, this can lead to a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of frustration, because when somebody has to get something perfect, if you're really afraid of making mistakes, you're very unlikely to go off and try something new or to push yourself, because you're so scared that you're going to get it wrong, that other people are going to see you fail. And I think that's the other thing with perfectionism. It definitely links into that social anxiety, doesn't it? Because I do wonder, and I often say to people, if nobody else was going to see that piece of writing or that painting or that email, or they, they weren't going to see you, would it matter that it wasn't perfect? And most people will say, well, no, it doesn't matter to them. And it's not that they feel they want to have it perfect. It's just this fear, this social anxiety, fearing getting things wrong, making mistakes and being laughed at or criticised. And of course then that leads to this, we call that analysis paralysis, where we just can't start anything new, and that is so frustrating. So you end up in your, what we call a comfort zone, which I would call the cage, because you can't step out of it. You're too scared to go and try something else. And that can very quickly then start to lead into depression. So I know a lot of people, use this label, I'm a perfectionist, I have to have everything right, and they're quite proud of it. But actually, if you're really feeling like that, if you do see yourself as a perfectionist and you're labeling yourself in that way and you're taking that identity on, really look at it. And is it a great thing? Yes, it's great to get things right, but is it stopping you? Is there some way that it's actually preventing you from moving on? So what can we do about it then? Well, the first thing is drop the label. If you're forever telling people I'm a perfectionist and people see you in that way, first of all, just drop that label. You are not a perfectionist. This is something that you started off choosing to do, perhaps, that now feels as though it's something that you need to continue. But allow yourself to make mistakes. And I keep saying this, I know, to those of you who watch my other videos, but just allow yourself to make a mistake. We are all on a journey. We are all learning all the time, and nobody is expected to go out and get everything right and be perfect at everything straight away. So just be kinder to yourself. And the other thing I would say is people like people who make mistakes. When you think about, the people that you love, do you love them because they're absolutely perfect and they never do anything wrong? And people especially love people who can make mistakes and just laugh about it. The ones who make mistakes and get quite cross and stressed about it and start screaming and shouting, they're not quite so much fun. But, if you can make a mistake, just do something silly and, go and tell everybody about it. Tell the story, tell them what you did. It really warms people to you. It just makes you more human. It makes you more relatable. So, don't be afraid of losing respect or losing love by making a mistake. It can actually draw people to you. So, what are you going to do then? Can you deliberately make a mistake, or just go out, with a crease in your shirt or a mark or a button missing or something? Can you do something just to prove to yourself that you don't have to be perfect and it's not the end of the world? Because you just need to start letting it go. Perhaps not checking that email 5 times. So I want you to have a think about that today. If you do kind of fall into this perfectionist thing, you've labelled yourself as a perfectionist, what can you start doing? Can you think of something that you did wrong and go out today and tell somebody about it and laugh about it and realise that, it wasn't the end of the world, and we all make mistakes, it's all part of learning, and it's actually quite funny. So if you would like to get in touch, then please do. I still have a few free strategy calls available over the next couple of weeks. So if you want to just come and have a chat about how I might be able to help you if you're finding that, these things are a problem for you and you're beginning to recognise that and you want to overcome them, you want to move on with your life and be a bit more confident, then please do get in touch, won't you? And I'll be back tomorrow to have a little talk tomorrow about anxiety at work and how we can lower that anxiety at work. So thank you very much for watching and for listening, and I'll be back to speak to you soon.